my name, Rob? What's my name?
That's that one.
In the world of Harry Potter, few characters have left a lasting impact as Cedric Diggory. Today at Collider, we take a deep dive into how Robert Pattinson approached the iconic role, from his audition to his unforgettable death scene in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The journey to becoming Cedric Diggory began, as most roles do, with an audition. Robert Pattinson was relatively unknown at the time, having starred in small roles in TV shows, but the Harry Potter franchise was already a global phenomenon by 2004. The stakes were high and the competition was fierce.
This strapping young lad must be Cedric, am I right?
Yes, sir.
At his audition, Pattinson was introduced to a character that was vastly different from anything he had done before. Cedric, a popular and athletic Hogwarts student, was a symbol of honor and bravery, qualities that would be tested when he faced off against Lord Voldemort's dark forces. But Robert wasn't immediately sold on the role.
The Hogwarts champion, Cedric Diggory!
In several interviews, he's mentioned feeling intimidated by the whole thing. He had to audition with the actual script, which felt incredibly formal, and he just didn't know if he could pull it off. The way the characters are written, they seem so familiar to people, and there's this expectation that you'll be the perfect fit for them. But he didn't feel that way about himself. Director Mike Newell, who directed Goblet of Fire, was initially unsure about Pattinson. He had a clear vision for the character of Cedric, someone who was not just handsome, but genuine and virtuous, with a quiet yet formidable strength. Pattinson wasn't just there to fill the role, he was there to make Cedric memorable. After seeing the subtleties in Pattinson's performance and how he brought a sensitivity to the character, Newell knew he had to cast him immediately. It wasn't just his good looks that made him stand out, but his natural ability to bring depth to a character that could have easily been a cliché.
I'd sort of fallen into it. I mean, it was so terrifying.
Despite landing the role, Pattinson's confidence didn't grow instantly. In fact, he became more intimidated as the gravity of the role set in. Joining the cast of Harry Potter was no small feat, especially for a young actor stepping into a world already populated by established stars. Pattinson found himself comparing his performance to those of his co-stars, most notably Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson. The trio had been playing their characters for years, and the dynamic between them had already been cemented. Robert, on the other hand, was the new kid on set, and this created a sense of isolation and self-doubt. In interviews, Pattinson expressed how he'd watch the lead trio in scenes and think to himself, how am I supposed to fit in with them? Daniel, Rupert, and Emma had known each other for years, and he was the newcomer. He felt like he had to try and prove himself every day, even though he knew he didn't need to.
Hey, listen, about the badges. I've asked him not to wear them.
Don't worry about it.
This internal battle with self-doubt is a common theme in Pattinson's career, especially during the Harry Potter days. His drive to be the best version of Cedric sometimes led him to push too hard, overthinking every line and gesture. To combat his nerves, Pattinson tried to do some research, and since many of his scenes were action-packed, he wanted to work on his physicality. But he admits to getting a bit violent with himself to prepare for many of his scenes.
I had no concept of how to kind of get into a psyched-up physical state.
He read a book on method acting, but the only thing he really got out of it was just beating yourself up before every single scene. He was psyching himself up as if he was getting into a fight, and screaming into a pillow and fighting it. Sometimes he'd punch himself and rip his clothes off.
That was basically my only concept of how to prepare for a scene.
At one point, Pattinson even admitted to feeling the pressure of living up to fans' expectations of Cedric Diggory, who was beloved by readers of J.K. Rowling's books. With each take, he worried he might not be able to live up to the image in their minds.
How are you?
Spectacular.
With these fears in mind, Pattinson began to explore what made Cedric Diggory different from the rest of the characters in Goblet of Fire. Cedric's most prominent characteristic is his kindness. He was a hero, yes, but not a hero of grand speeches or flashy feats of strength. He was simply a person of integrity who did what was right, even when faced with peril. Pattinson worked closely with the film's producers and his fellow actors to ensure that Cedric wasn't just a passive character who was there to serve the plot.
I remember the first scene I ever shot on that was in the magical maze at the end.
Cedric was a key player in Harry's journey, someone who embodied the idea that good people can face dark forces and still come out with their honor intact. He worked a lot with Newell on the idea that Cedric is supposed to be a hero in a quiet way. He doesn't wear it on his sleeve, but it's just something that he does.
You were gonna let it get me.
For a moment, so did I.
Cedric is a good guy without trying to prove it to anyone. One of the biggest challenges for Pattinson was ensuring that Cedric's nobility wasn't overshadowed by his inevitable death. Cedric's death scene stands as one of the most tragic moments in the Harry Potter series.
Voldemort's back! Cedric, He asked me to bring his body back.
But Pattinson was determined that Cedric's demise wouldn't be a mere plot point. It had to be meaningful. In preparation for that scene, Pattinson did extensive work on grasping the emotional impact of Cedric's death, not just for the character, but for the audience. He used his method approach and tried to anticipate the fans' reactions to better comprehend the weight of his character's death. He knew this was a moment that would haunt Harry for the rest of his life and serve as a pivotal turning point for the entire series, setting up the last 4 movies.
It was a big deal at the time. It felt like very, very intimidating.
Another surprising challenge Pattinson faced was learning how to use a wand. Although he was playing a wizard, the intricacies of wand movement weren't something Robert had considered before. As part of his preparation, he underwent special wand training to ensure that he could hold his wand correctly and perform his spells in a believable way. But when it came to his climactic death scene, it's as if he forgot all his training. In an interview, Pattinson mentions that he remembers holding a wand,
Thinking that it felt so dorky to hold it like a magic wand, so I'm holding it like a gun.
with 2 hands. This might sound trivial to some, but to Pattinson, the details mattered.
Thinking I'm in like a Die Hard movie. I think I even have one eye closed.
Like it's got a viewfinder on it. He wanted to look as though the magic he wielded was second nature, even though he was still learning the ropes. The wand was symbolic of Cedric's growth as a wizard, a young man who was talented, but still learning where he fits in the grand scheme of the magical world.
He's back! He's back!
By the time it came to film Cedric's death scene in Goblet of Fire, Pattinson had fully embraced the character. But even as the end of Cedric's journey approached, he found it difficult to let go. The scene in which Cedric is murdered by Peter Pettigrew is gut-wrenching, not just because of the violence, but because of the promise Cedric represents to Harry and to the audience. He is a symbol of everything that is pure and good in the world of Harry Potter.
We have to get back to the cup. Now!
What are you talking about?
Pattinson recalls the difficulty of filming that moment, particularly because he knew it would leave such a lasting impact on fans. He knew that Cedric's death had to be emotional. He didn't want to make it too dramatic or theatrical, but he also wanted to give the scene its due weight.
Who are you? What do you want? Kill the spare!
About a...
No!
It was hard because it wasn't just about the death itself. It was about what it meant for Harry and the future of the story. And so, when the final take was completed, Robert Pattinson's work on Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire came to a close. His portrayal of Cedric Diggory was met with widespread praise, not just for his charm or good looks, but for his ability to bring depth and humanity to a character whose life was tragically cut short.
Thanks. No problem.
Cedric Diggory might have only appeared in 1 Harry Potter film, but thanks to Robert Pattinson, he left an indelible mark on the world of wizardry. And although the character of Cedric Diggory met a tragic end, Robert Pattinson's journey as an actor was only just beginning, one that would take him to the heights of Hollywood and beyond.